Thank you. Thanks so much. As all of you know, we have a special guest joining us tonight, and it's no surprise right now. But we're going to talk about this intersection between culture and commerce. And one of the things that we recognize at Visa is that commerce doesn't operate in a vacuum. Among other things, it's shaped by culture, and it also shapes culture. What we buy, why we buy, how we buy, even the things of value that we exchange, it's all deeply cultural. And what we've noticed is that within that dynamic, creativity has risen as a force that's differentiating those who are successful. And it's not just the act of creating something new, it's the art and science of expanding what is possible for more and more people. It's something emanating deep from within creators, but it's also showing who we can become. And so what's exciting for me is that we're seeing this range of creators across, of course, music and fashion, but also social media and podcasters and streamers and in tech. And it's leading to what we all see is projected to be a $480 billion business, the creator economy. And so one of the things I'm proud to announce today is that Visa is going to start treating creators as small businesses within our network. They're going to receive the same tools, the same access that any other small business has. They're going to, of course, Visa business credit and debit cards, but also payment controls, also kind of payment infrastructure platforms. And for us, that's a very, very exciting step for us. But it really is, it's Visa being alongside creative people and small businesses, anyone, as they take small steps forward. It's really that process of taking small steps that we're going to talk about. And so before I bring Pharrell up on stage, let me just play this video that kind of alludes to what I'm talking about for small steps. Let's roll the video.
Show me your prodigies, your wonderkins, overnight successes, sensations, virtuosos, outliers. Show me the unfairly gifted, the business masterminds, the once-in-a-generation talents, and we'll show you the late nights, the early risers, tough days, the relentless fighters, taking small steps forward to make the big things happen.
With that, we're very fortunate. Thank you. With that, we're very fortunate to have with us tonight Grammy Award-winning artist and producer, Academy Award-nominated filmmaker, philanthropist, all-around great human being, and creative director of Louis Vuitton. Please give a warm welcome to the stage to Pharrell Williams.
Whoa.
Welcome. I gave this whole kind of wind up about all the things that you've done, and I kind of skimmed the surface of it, really. I mean, you've done a lot more. But I think I want to dispel that whole myth of overnight success.
Okay.
And so I want to go back in time a little bit and start early before your career had even started. And so we're back in Virginia Beach. You're thinking about what you might want to become. I'm curious, what were some of the sources of inspiration, the things that inspired you? Because I know your company was called Star Trek Entertainment, so I assume there's something around that. The things that inspired you and the people that inspired you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And thank you all for being here tonight. I really wish that I had some amazing, poetic, symbolic origin story.
Yeah.
But really what I was a child who was filled of imagination, and there were, I came from a federally subsidized household, and then we moved to the modest part of the suburbs, and we couldn't afford things like a lot of my classmates could. So I daydreamt, I used to sketch all the time when I should have been doing my schoolwork. And I also thought about the things I really wanted that I wish I could have. And so my friends would wear I wore coming from skateboarding, I wore Vans, but my friends wore Jordans. And I remember thinking, man, I would love to have a pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
But if I got them, they were black at the time, like the Jordan 3s. I was like, man, but if I got them, I would make them in green, or I'd make them in red, or I'd make them in yellow. And then 20 years later, they did end up doing that.
Right.
But at the time, that imagination, that fostered imagination came in handy when it came time for me to, when I started making music, my imagination that was getting me in trouble in school, and the imagination for the things that I wanted and the way that I wanted things to show up in terms of product, that ended up working out for me later.
Right.
And so I never dreamt that we would ever end up, having a professional career in music or anything like that. I just knew that I loved music so much. Once I heard Tribe Called Quest, I just was like, wow, this is amazing, and I want to learn how to do this. I want to figure out how to do this thing.
Yeah.
And so then I met Chad Hugo, and then a couple times a week after school, every week, a couple times after school, we would go and make music on these very small, cheap keyboards, one called Casio, another one called Korg. And we just never looked back, and we just did it so much. And then ironically, this big producer, I lived in Virginia Beach, Virginia, by the way. There was no music industry there.
Someone just shouted out Virginia Beach.
Yeah, Virginia. Yeah. So there was no music industry there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this big producer who had done Michael Jackson and a few other really big artists.
Teddy Riley.
Yeah, Teddy Riley. He pops up and parks his studio, ironically, next door to my high school. Not 5 years after I was there, or 5 years before I was there, right when I got there.
Huh.
So it was this weird thing. So we have this talent show, and that's how we got discovered. And I went right into music. And so dreaming of the way that I wanted to make shoes one day materialized. Making music all the time and being so slightly delusional about not being responsible as a young man growing up and trying to figure out how to really get a job because I just love music so much.
Right.
That worked out for me. So I wish I could say that I had this really responsible journey, but it wasn't. It was kind of like I was blinded by my delusion and ambition and my unwavering love for music.
No, I think it's a great origin story because, you're in Virginia Beach, and I'm not saying nothing's happened in Virginia Beach, but it wasn't a lot happening.
It was not.
It wasn't a lot happening in Virginia Beach.
It was not happening in Virginia.
And just kind of imagining what's possible, to me, that's a beautiful story. Not to geek out too much on this, but
No worries.
A Tribe Called Quest and Q-Tip. What was it about
Deities.
that moment, man? Yeah.
Native tongues. De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, even Leaders of the New School, even Black Sheep, these people shaped the way I thought about music. It made me feel a certain kind of way. Between that and skateboarding.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is the lenses that I look at everything through. And while I wasn't the best, you know, that sense of achievement when you land a trick,
Yeah.
just, you never let that go. You know, you're like, yes, man, you've been working really hard to get this trick, and when you finally get it, it means the world to you. So that taught me like discipline, along with like being in the marching band. That taught me discipline as well. So I got discipline from very different areas in my life.
And the last thing I'll touch on, just because I'm curious, you know, I think one of your earliest companies was called Star Trek Entertainment. So I'm just assuming that you were a Star Trek fan growing up.
Live long and prosper.
And I'm just, and I'm just curious, like, so,
That's everything for me.
like, how do you think that inspired you? I mean, because that was like at that time, you know, I think people will call it geek culture, and now it intersected with pop culture. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, how that shaped your how it sparked your imagination.
Well, it's funny you said Spark. Spock, you know, that was like my nickname. They used to call me Dr. Spock when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Because my ears were pointy. And I just loved the TV show. And I loved that they would go to different worlds and meet different species.
Yeah.
And that just made me dream as a child, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, man. And
Okay.
you know, at the video I was showing, part of what it was trying to say is that the process or the path to success, a lot of times people see people at the finish line.
Yeah.
They see someone on the stage holding multiple Grammys, but the real story is about the process.
Yeah.
You know, of just the process of getting better, and most people don't see that. I was wondering if you can just shed some light on how you think
Well,
about the process.
I think the biggest issue, how's everybody feeling right now? Yeah. Just want to make sure. You know, in my country, we are raised to think about how to make the most money because our parents thought that way. And they had this like false sense of like what the American dream is or should be. And the American dream is not about making the most money. In fact, the human dream and the consumer's dream shouldn't be about making the most money. It should be about spending the most time doing something that you love.
Yeah.
So many times, your parents told you they wanted you to be a doctor, they wanted you to be a lawyer, and some of you did it, and it's cool. But then some of you go to college as you're taking that major, and you find out, you know what, I know my mom and dad have spent all this money. They're gonna be really pissed, but I'm changing my major. That happens too, right? Right? And you are happy.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens to the vast majority. The vast majority, they go after it and they don't get it. And then they end up working somewhere that they hate because it's the next best thing financially. But I always say, if you think about something that you love so much that if you could snap your fingers right now and you could work there and you never made any money, but all your bills were paid,
Yeah.
would you do it? Would you? Right? Now, that same job, let's say it's football and you're 3'4", and it's not gonna happen. There's other jobs connected to it.
Yeah.
There is being the trainer, there is designing the uniforms, there is being the coach, there is being the bus driver, there is selling popcorn, there's the concession stand. There's so many things you could be, you know, one of the people who work production, you could work the cameras, whatever it is. If you can find a vocation around something that you love,
Yeah.
you now have a dream job. And you will show up there, you'll be the first one there, and you'll be the last one to leave, and you'll love it. And if you can actually find a way to service other human beings, well, now you have a human, universal dream job that you feel like you get paid because you would do it for free if you'd love to, if you could.
Right.
And to me, that is what we should be telling our children. That is the way that we should be leading our society, for people to do what they love, because then you're not on a Monday afternoon, you're not going, oh man, it's just 1 p.m. I got like 5 more hours to go, you know.
Yeah.
Instead, you're the first one that shows up to work, and on Friday, around 10 p.m., everyone's like, are you ready to go? Let's go. And you're like, no, I just need 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
That's a dream job. That's what we should be talking about as a society.
You know, I've heard you say, and maybe this was me, yes, I totally agree. I've heard you say before that I don't have a job. And I think what you meant by that is that I don't think of this as like work in the classic sense that I have to be here.
You mean at Louis Vuitton?
Yeah.
Okay, so at Louis Vuitton, that is an artist in residency.
Interesting.
Yes. My time is being subsidized for me to be creative.
Interesting. So would you consider that, okay, so you said it's not a job in what sense?
It's not a job. I've never looked at a check. Like,
Oh.
I'm being subsidized to be creative.
And did you ever imagine you would be in that position? Because what I'm getting at in a way is that part of, because I love this idea of don't have a fallback plan in the sense like a plan B. If you're going to fall forward, right? And you'll discover new things. But part of that is discovering new things. Like sometimes you don't know a certain job even exists or a certain opportunity. You know, there are industries that haven't even been created yet. Like how do you remain open, I don't know, to the universe or to the opportunities? How do you adapt as change is happening in front of you all the time?
I have always had strong faith and a tablespoon of delusion. You got to have a tablespoon of delusion, because that's what helps you stay focused on what it is that you see. So much you can taste it, so much you can smell it, so much you can feel it, you hear it, you see it. You have to have that. And when you don't have that, then you don't have conviction.
Yeah.
And you need conviction. You've got to be convicted to do what you do. That's when you become the most reliable, the most dependable. That's why, like, you know, when you and I first start talking, and I'm here on behalf of you and Visa, like, the relationship that we have now, our first conversation was about things being deeper than just pure superficial and material transactions. It was deeper than that. These things that we get or we acquire or we consume, consumer, these things enable us to have something that you can never lose, which is the experience.
Yeah.
That's what brought us together.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of an organization or a company or corporation that helps human beings have great experiences.
I love that. I love that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about culture
Sure.
shaping commerce. And,
Sure.
and you know, one of the things, you know, when I was at Def Jam before and
Yes.
the music industry, one of the things that I found fascinating is that hip hop culture kind of shifted the mindset of artists and how they think about commerce. Because you remember at one time it was almost taboo to try to, that somehow commerce would undermine the art. But hip hop culture just exploded that whole idea. It's now like, no, they're interconnected. I was curious how you think about culture shaping commerce and vice versa.
It always has. It's not a new phenomenon. I would say probably the only thing that's new is the fact that it's now hip hop. But if you look at the influence of African Americans since we came over as captives, we have influenced the market. For example, you know, we all know the reason why Wall Street is called Wall Street is because the first commodity traded in America had to stand against it.
Yeah.
It was our ancestors.
Yeah.
Wall Street. It's still called that today.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've always had an influence, good, bad, or indifferent. But the whole thing is, it's like I was saying to you backstage, it's like, and we were actually saying together, you know, we're used to that as a culture.
Yeah.
We look at what's left and that becomes the soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you're out here now and you're saying, okay, they're saying, Pharrell, I love this idea. Culture shapes commerce. How can I tap into culture? Like, does culture reveal itself? You know, do I need to be out every night?
You are the culture.
What does that mean?
I mean, when you look in the mirror, you are the culture. You are the change. You are the inspiration. The fire is in you. It's not, sure, it could be in a tree if you light it, but the fire is in human beings. It's what we do that moves big swaths of demographics to go in different directions called trends. It's us.
And so when you were, and I know fashion comes in cycles. My wife Nina was telling me about the Timberland, which you cost me money, but we're going to talk about that later. But cowboy culture comes through.
Sure.
You tap into dog culture. You see, not everyone sees that though. And part of it is timing, I think, right? Like you have to time these things. So like in this moment in time, this idea kind of works. So there seems to be a process that people can go through to actually become more in tune with finding that thing within them that can connect to large groups of people.
Yeah, and you know what? It's, art is created by those who have vision, but it's what they see is the actual art. The physical manifestation is a representation of what this person was seeing in their mind.
Yeah.
And the same thing can be said about entrepreneurship or even a basic conversation. It's what you see in your mind, and it's what your perception is and your perspective made manifest through either a sentence, a startup, or a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit here. I want to,
if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense to me. I think what you're saying, at least my interpretation of it, is that this whole idea about the culture,
yes,
is a distraction because you're looking for some mythological thing that exists out there. You're saying the culture is in you.
It's you.
And how you are connected to other people.
Absolutely. The ocean is the sum of trillions and trillions of drops of water.
Yeah.
And when it all comes together and coalesce, you get waves and they ebb and flow. But remember, every drip counts. And that is the culture. It's this amalgamation of all these really special human beings moving in different waves that ebb and flow.
So in large part, it's having the confidence and believing in your own kind of uniqueness and what some may call quirkiness. You got to embrace that because that drop is as important as any other drop.
Absolutely.
But you have to embrace that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you got to be you, and you got to vibrate, and you have to illuminate.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then you're a waste of space.
I hear you. I hear you. I want to touch, part of what we do now at Visa, and I've been in financial services, I've been in the music industry, but what's fascinating to me about financial services and culturally is that we're now thinking about the full spectrum of financial well-being, how you earn your money, how you spend it, how you save it, how you invest it, how you give it. And we talked a little bit about how you earn the money and finding purpose, in their sense of purpose. I want to go to the other side of it, how you give it. And I know you have deep involvement with a couple of philanthropic organizations you started, Black Ambition and Yellow.
Yep.
And before we go into Black Ambition in particular, I'm just curious, how do you think about giving back? Is it, to you, charity, philanthropy, empowering others? Like, what's the motivation for you?
It's universal. You have to give back to that which is given to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that it works.
Mm-hmm.
We have, each one of you have a responsibility. You gotta give back to that which is given to you. You may think that you're responsible for everything, but you're not. You do not create the opportunities that come before you. You do not create the odds that come before you. You have the ability to attract it because your spirit and your readiness and your self-awareness is ready to participate in these things that come before you. But you're not responsible. And if you're not responsible, then you have to give thanks by giving back because it's given to you. Your life is a gift. The present is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Yeah.
It's a gift. You got to give back to that which is given to you.
Love that. Love that. And Black Ambition, but thank you. I love that. Seriously. And believe that.
Yes,
and I
sir.
believe that. But so Black Ambition in particular, that's one of the main things you're focused on. What is it? Why are you invested in it? What do you hope comes out of it?
You know, black people in America, the world at large rather, but just in America, you know, we're always asking. We're always pleading. At times we're begging. At times we're shouting for our equal share. We helped build the nation. We came over as free labor. We were not only the workforce, but we were the currency. A black person costed as much as the cost of a Cadillac today. We were currency. We were traded on Wall Street. We don't have much to show for it, except disproportionate education, disproportionate healthcare, disproportionate medicine representation. Like, these things hurt us.
Yeah.
And they set us back generations. But, you know, our recent ancestors fought for equality. My whole thing is, you don't have to ask when you have your own. So we created Black Ambition to foster black and brown ideas and have mentorship, you know, scaffolding around the businesses to teach them how to build their businesses, build their startups. And oftentimes, like, you know, you're always trying to you're vying for a seat at the table. Our whole philosophy is, if you build your own table, you can invite whoever you want there.
Right.
Right? So it's just time for yes, it's time for entrepreneurship, and it's time for, you know, startups and great ideas that are black and brown to just have their fair share in the sun. Not asking for equality.
Right.
We are going to plan and build for equity, our own.
And this is an idea and an ambition that can apply to anyone, anywhere in the world, right? Which is basically build your own table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Build your own table and decide who you want to be there. And by the way, these are black and brown ideas, but these are black and brown ideas for the rest of the world to participate in.
Yeah.
We want consumers of all types. We're human beings.
Yeah.
There's so much divisiveness out there right now. And I don't know how you guys feel. Some people feel one way about the election. Some people feel another way. You know, me personally, I see myself like as a merit civil servant. I'm going to serve human beings, the needy, the people, the innocent, the voiceless. I am going to serve them no matter who is in office.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my universal job.
Yes. I love that, Pharrell. They're flashing the lights. I'm feeling they're going to start playing the music. So we have to stop. I could spend another hour talking to you. I have so many more questions. But to one of the great human beings of the world, please thank again Pharrell Williams for making time for us.